All right, breaking into Falcons, Colts. I'm going to talk about Michael Penix and his play because that's kind of the biggest point of interest for me moving forward outside of the other young rookies. Right here, obviously, it's a great throw to Kyle Pitts that just gets dropped. Penix overall this game, I thought he was pretty good in the first half and had some really disastrous misses in the second half. But right here, there's nothing he's doing wrong here concept-wise. So they're going to have Darnell Mooney coming up here running this outside go to clear out space. They're going to have Drake London after motioning in coming up here and kind of running across the field on this deep crosser, and Kyle Pitts is going to be doing the same exact thing. And now Kyle Pitts is clearly the one read on this because you would not have a clear out if he was not who you're trying to target. And then I would guess, if Drake London here pops is where you want to go. And then, you also have kind of this check down to the flat. And, that's really the design of the play. So, again, play action, you can see we get some movement right here. Top of his drop, Penix, he's looking right down the middle of the field. He sees, okay, I got this vacated space I want to attack. Pitts has a step. Let's put it on him. Absolute dart of a throw. It just, we just can't catch it. And, I don't want to be too harsh on Pitts because I think he's had a pretty good season overall. Certainly back to looking pretty good. But unfortunately, this was a very, very big drop because, we followed up with messing up our blitz protection and fumbling the football away. So, big miss, but a good throw by Penix on a day where he was very up and down. All right, next one here. This was a big procedural misstep from Penix here. He has to know he's hot. Everybody else knows he's hot. He doesn't know he's hot, and he fumbles the football on a pretty critical play early on. That just kind of sets the vibe a little bit in the dumps. He just has to know this. You can literally see Wilkinson pointing out the blitz, which we'll show more from the end zone angle as we break into it. But to me, Michael Penix knows he's hot because he checks to it. You can see right here this signal he's giving, with his hands to his head. He's saying, hey, I want you guys coming out here blocking, and then if this is a hot and they're blitzing me, and this edge play right here is unblocked, I'm going to throw it to my running back, and we're going to get a screen, and we're going to get a good setup for either fourth down or third down. Fourth down, or we're going to get the first down. Instead, he seems to get hemmed up on wanting to throw this kind of stutter go to Kyle Pitts that, I just don't understand it because he's making this check against the pressure. He knows they're presenting zero. They're presenting like, hey, we're manned up here, and whenever they're presenting this, you as the quarterback have to have a plan, and he should know right off the snap because you can see Wilkinson pointing out the blitz that he should be hot, and all he should be doing is verifying this player. If this player is coming at you, you throw it to Bijan and you hope he gets the first down. If he doesn't get the first down, guess what? You might be set up around the 2 or 3 yards short. You can go for it on fourth down, but you can't do what he does here, which is lock in on Kyle Pitts. Start trying to get middle of the field and then take a strip sack on a play that you have to know you're facing pressure. You have to know your hot options. This is purely on the quarterback. The answer is built into the play. He checks to it, and then he still takes the sack. So, very bad play from Michael Penix for me. Rough one. All right, next thing we're going to see, Michael Penix able to kind of extend, roll into his left a little bit, and hit Drake London on kind of like the second window for this dig route. The spacing at the top of this is kind of weird. But it certainly works out for us. Drake London wide open in space, gets a big play. It's a good job by Mike, Michael Penix, scrambling to his left, staying patient in the pocket, and, only really moving when the color flashes in his face, and obviously making a good throw on the moves. There's not a ton of analysis on this. Obviously, it's a good play by him. We'll draw it up, though, because I want to be, thorough on what we're talking about here. So they motion Bijan over, and then what I don't necessarily love is like the speed at which this gets ran. So obviously they're hunting for this dig by Drake London, and it ends up being there. I just don't love the spacing because you can see when Drake London makes his break, Kyle Pitts, you would like to see a little bit more depth from him in terms of speed. Opposed to him being right here, you'd love it if he was more, 4 or 5 yards ahead of Drake London. The spacing just a little bit tight. Doesn't end up mattering. This linebacker, gets a little too ahead of himself, and it allows Drake to cut right across his face. And then, Penix is making a nice throw down the field. This was certainly, a good first half for him. I've really thought, we were going to get, a really standout game from him. And the second half kind of, got rid of, some of these great plays for me early. Not that the second half had no positives, but I think for me overall, I thought the first half was much better because of plays like this. And next one here, we're going to see Michael Penix targeting Darnell Mooney on this option route. Darnell Mooney certainly wins, though. His stem at break is a little bit awkward. But either way, this is just a miss by Michael Penix. Not egregious, right? It's, at his fingertips, but this isn't a catch I think you can, expect a wide receiver to make consistently. We can certainly do better than this. So again, design-wise, there's not a ton here. This is really just a one-on-one. Mooney can do whatever he wants. He can break it inside. He can break it outside. And he's really just watching Michael Penix, that is Mooney, and throwing whatever he likes. You can see he's locked in on it. He said, all right, my guy's breaking outside. I like that space. I have room to throw it. And it just ends up being a little bit outside of Mooney's hands. Obviously, there's lots of criticism you could make in terms of the stem. I think it's a little too much for me. But for Michael Penix, again, he knows where he wants to go with the ball. He sees it when, and he throws it. And, it's at our outstretched arms of our receiver. So, could he catch this? I don't think this is a reasonable expectation to make any receiver catch. Maybe Prime Julio's catching that. We certainly, aren't seeing that happen here. So either way, that's an accuracy miss for me. In terms of reads, Michael Penix is just locked in on this option route from beginning to end. We'll watch it one more time from the wide angle just to talk about it a little bit more. So again, I think the pocket right here, we can all see this is a pretty good pocket, right? He has all day to throw it, read in it, make the throw. It was just barely miss it. So it's an unfortunate miss on a day he had some of them. All right, next in here, we're talking about Michael Penix primarily, but we're also just going to talk about the offense right here. Once again, Indianapolis is kind of presenting pressure, and we're once again trying to go to a screen to beat it, and we just don't get the blocking we need. We have the numbers, we have the angles. At the very least, it sets you up for a fourth down, but unfortunately, Bijan gets blown up because Drake London can't make a block, which just kind of is what it is. So again, you see the motion, and when you see this motion, to me, this is an indicator if I'm the quarterback, all right, we might have man coverage here. That means they're probably actually bringing the pressure. And then, okay, you're like, all right, let's watch. Oh, we do have man coverage, right? They did bring the pressure. Maybe they're going to drop one of their linemen, but whatever. Practically speaking, we're getting man coverage here with one deep safety. So, again, he makes the right decision. Let me throw my screen. We just don't get this block from Drake London that we need to get, and that's unfortunate. He kind of gets a little too upfield, and at this point, there's nothing for him to do. I think you can very easily see where if he seals this, maybe we're getting, if not the first down, pretty close to it. But unfortunately, we get tackled, and there's nothing Bijan can do. This isn't a quarterback play to me. This is a wide receiver blocking play. It's unfortunate, at this point, it's kind of on the players and the coaching staff. Like, we haven't really been super effective with screens since the Bills game. And, that's a problem. It just isn't effective enough. And when your offense doesn't have easy buttons, it makes it, obviously very hard to consistently answer pressure looks and, early down to get your quarterback in a rhythm because you just don't have easy buttons to get, favorable down and distances. So, all right, next one here, we're going to see Michael Penix really hunting this deep ball to Mooney, kind of locking in on it. And we get pressure in his face, and he's not able to really, make the throw he wants to make. And then as he's scrambling left, he wisely decides not to throw this ball to Pitts. I don't think it's a reasonable throw to expect him to make. There's really, only two quarterbacks in the NFL I think make that consistently, and one of those is Mahomes. So right here, I get what he wants to do. The design of the play is definitely to hit Mooney after this kind of out, as he gets vertical. The throw certainly could have been there, but at the end of the day, we get pressure in our face, and I just want to include this because obviously it ends up being a throwaway, which is a good play by him. So you're going to see, Drake London coming over here and kind of stopping when he notices it's zone. You're going to see Kyle Pitts coming up here who kind of flashes as his backside kind of sit. And then where he really wants to go with the ball is Mooney coming up here, running this out, and then getting vertical. This is 100% where he's locked in. He really wants to throw this. It's kind of a design, big play. Top of his drop, you can see he's looking there. He's like, all right, let me act like I'm going to throw the go, and then the out, and hopefully that gets this guy turned, and then when we accelerate upfield, I can make this throw. Unfortunately, we have pressure in our face. We have to scramble. We just wisely decide not to try to make anything crazy happen, and, we live to play another down. Even it ends up being third and long. But this is, why some of the troubles on third down come from directly from this, where, we're not setting this up in favorable positions. You can see here's that pump fake to try to sell the out route. At this point, Jake's in his face. He, can't really make the throw he wants to make. Scrambles left. Again, you have this lane to Kyle Pitts. I think there's quarterbacks in the NFL who try to make this throw. I don't think Michael Penix will ever be that sort of guy. And that's not even me saying that in a derogatory way. I don't think this is a good window to throw like it looks like, because you have this player in pursuit and you have this player in pursuit. So if you're going to throw this, first of all, it has to flash early. And then second of all, you have to be confident in your ability to fit it in with velocity and not let this guy get a hand on it, and also not throw it so soft that this guy can get in front of it either. So again, very muddy window that kind of flashes. On a screenshot, this looks like, oh, well, why doesn't he just fucking whip it in there? I think realistically, the window is, not great. So I like that he throws it away. Don't take a stupid sack and live to play another down. All right, next one here, we're going to see Michael Penix with all day in the pocket, able to get late to his check down over the middle after nothing really opens up down the field. This is a great job from him. Just, again, if the Colts are going to rush, for at you and you have good pass pro, hit your check down, hope he makes a guy miss like he does, and, you turn, what could have been, a 8-yard gain into, a 20-yard gain. This is offense in the NFL. You have to be willing to just take what the defense gives you, and he does a really good job with it here. Off the play action, all day in the pocket, waiting, trying to hunt, gets a ball outside away from the near defender to Charlie Warner over the middle, and it's a good job, and it it kind of sets us up on this drive. I think this is one of the scoring drives we ended up having in the first half. So it was nice. And now right here, you're going to see some motion. They're going to be coming up here and running this deep post with Drake London. They're going to have Darnell Mooney coming over here on this outside go. And then Kyle Pitts, design-wise, I think is where they're hoping to get this, with maybe like a cover 3 and or quarters look where he would just kind of flash wide open due to natural leverage. But unfortunately for us, this outside corner does a really good job kind of squeezing this along with the safety. And this window that's supposed to open for Kyle Pitts is never really there. And then what you'll see is, Penix ends up throwing it to his check down to make a guy miss. And that's just, good offense, right? Nothing's open, throw it to your 4th read, your check down late, and let him make stuff happen. So good play by him. Great blocking from the offensive line. I probably have the unpopular opinion that I don't think the offensive line is to blame for all of our issues in the passing game. I think in the run game, it's more fair to point the fingers at them and kind of player execution. I think in terms of passing, our offensive line, not that it's great in pass pro, but it certainly has been fine for me on most plays. So we'll break into it more as we go. All right, next in here, really interesting play for the Falcons. Obviously it's a great touch pass by Michael Penix to Drake London, but I just want to talk about what the Colts are doing defensively and how this particular play, kind of develops for us offensively. To me, the Colts here on this side where Penix throws the ball, they appear to be playing, a box call. That's what I would identify it as. Box is obviously a pretty common call in kind of the match quarters, world. And whenever you're working with quarters, coverage teams, you're usually going to see a little bit of cover 6, which is what it looks like to me. So when we talk about cover 6, you're going to have one half-field safety, and they're basically playing this cloud technique underneath. So you have your kind of cover 2 side, and we'll split the field in half, right here. And then on this side, you're usually playing quarters, where basically vertical. Where it gets interesting, though, is when you make the box call, right? So what's going to happen here with the box call, let's go ahead and clear it so we can just start to talk about the box. So find 4 defenders and draw a nice little box. And what's going to happen here is this player is responsible for the first inside vertical. This player is responsible for the first outside vertical. This player is responsible for the first low and outside route. And then this linebacker right here is responsible for the first low and inside route. And if anything comes across his face, he typically passes it off to whatever zone defenders is kind of there, which you'll see with this middle field player. So what's going to happen here is the Falcons are kind of running this route combination here with Pitts kind of running this post. And then Drake London coming up here, kind of stopping here. And then he's going to take it vertical on kind of right to the pylon. And what's interesting is as we watch this, and we'll talk about it. So again, top of his drop right here. If you're the defenders and you made this box call, you're like, all right, we have the flat sorted. All right, we have Drake London sorted. He's trying to run inside. My linebacker's there, hemming him up. All right, so now we just have Kyle Pitts coming up. This is my opportunity to not cover grass, but rather to get a little double team here. That way, if they're trying to throw to Kyle Pitts, the window is tight and it's not really there. But what that does is, as you can see right here, he's driving over. You have this double team over the top. It is going to open up Drake London to attack this vacated space. And over here, you can kind of see, that cover 2 where, you have your half-field safety, you have your flat defender. Again, it could also just be quarters with like a man coverage call. There's lots of rules that makes coverage kind of tough to diagnose. But I'm pretty confident this down here, this whole situation is a box call, and it just kind of naturally works out for us right here that because they're trying to get this double team on the vertical, that it opens up all this space, and, we're really just able to take advantage of it. So, how intentional that was, I don't know. I mean, if it was, it's a pretty fucking sick play, right? A little like fake hitch into, pylon. That's pretty cool. But either way, it's a great touch play by Michael Penix getting this ball to Drake London. Absolutely love it. I just wanted to talk more about the defensive side of the ball, because honestly, defense can be funner to discuss sometimes for me because it's more, complex, I would say, in terms of diagnosing it. Offense, okay, we see what the route combo is. This is why they're doing this. Defensively, you got to kind of really break into the weeds, and I always love doing that. So, next play. Right, next one here, we're going to see Michael Penix, kind of hit this boot and able to get Kyle Pitts out in space down the field. Just a really easy, pitch and catch. I don't even have a ton of analysis for it. I just wanted to put it on here because I thought it was a nice example of, Z-Rob doing something to basically make an easy play for the offense. And obviously ends up being, a big explosive play. So that's a really good job, obviously, by Penix. Don't miss a layup. But, offensively, right, play action, draw up all these players. This guy's going to be watching, looking for a block, and Kyle Pitts is just going to run right by him. Does not get any easier than this. Nobody even really in your face. You have plenty of time to put this ball out there. He does exactly that. It's a great play. Again, mostly including it as an example of, an easy play call that gets your quarterback in rhythm, feeling good. Oh, first drive, or just started the drive and I just got a 20-chunk play. Let's fucking go. Let's get to the next one. All right, next thing, we're going to see Michael Penix, just not able to make a good throw. I mean, I think I understand he has pressure coming at him in the pocket, but part of being an NFL quarterback is completing some balls against pressure. And the pressure doesn't get to him in a way that affects his base pre-throw, right? It's not like he's, having to throw off his tiptoes, right? I think he has plenty of time to kind of slice this one up. Donald Mooney coming up here, running this out route backside. Bijan coming up option route, and takes it inside. Drake London, slow route, break it outside. And then where the money on this one is Kyle Pitts coming up here and running this out route. And, it's there to be made. Like, there's no denying at the top of his drop, he's looking right at it. He sees the win. Yes, I have pressure in my face, but hey, I'm an NFL quarterback. I see his stem. I can put this, right down his line out of his break, and this should be a pretty good catch. And, we have to make him come way back inside trying to catch this thing. And, that's just not good enough. So what am I saying where I understand right here. Hey, we have pressure in our face. But you can see right now, obviously this rushes his throw a little bit, but you just, I hate to be mean, right? But this is the NFL, right? These guys get paid millions of dollars. I guess I'll be a little bit mean because I don't make shit in terms of money, and I just sit here and break down my favorite football team. We got to make this throw. Especially for someone who's touted to have all this arm talent, we just got to make this throw, man. That's just not it. Way inside, not even on our line. Yeah, it's a bad miss. It's a bad miss on a day. He had a lot of bad misses like this. Overall, because I don't want people to just stop tuning out here thinking I'm just hating on him. I don't think the film was absolutely god-awful. I just think some of the misses are pretty egregious, and it's going to be hard to be a consistent NFL quarterback when you're missing like this. He had some really nice throws. We saw some really nice throws. We've seen really nice throws. We're going to see even more nice throws. But misses like this, it's very hard for me to sit there and see this on film in conjunction with all the stats that suggest that he's not throwing a lot of catchable footballs out there and not think there's some sort of trend. So, rough miss. We're going to get to the next play, right? This is just one play out of, I think I'm reviewing like 26, 27, something like that. So yeah, we'll get to the next one. But this one, obviously, it's a rough miss. And I don't really have a good excuse for him. I think you just have to sit there, take the pressure, and make the throw. All right, next thing we get a tough miss from Michael Penix to Kyle Pitts on the same kind of series. Just not able to connect on the deep ball. And, it's a little unfortunate. I'm of the opinion that if you're going to miss like this, right, I'd rather you underthrow it than overthrow it, because I think right here, you could see a world where maybe if the defender gets there a hair earlier, he draws pass interference call or something. But that's all personal preference. The reality is right here, he decides he wants to throw this ball to Kyle Pitts. The throw's there to be made. He's not even looking anywhere else. He just wants to throw it. He likes the one-on-one matchup. Realistically, this isn't even, that great of a window to kind of throw it. I guess he sees the safety drive down a little bit. But, this leverage is great. This is just him trusting his guy with good reason, right? The throw's there to be made, right? Throw it one-on-one. Kyle Pitts gives a little push-off right here. Has to slow down. Gives the guy the opportunity to get in his face. Again, I prefer to miss short. Some people prefer to miss long. Obviously, in an ideal world, you just complete the pass and you throw it in stride because, Kyle Pitts, it really creates some separation at the top here. Right there, you can obviously, we all have eyes, right? If he puts it right there about the end zone, this is going to be a walk-in touchdown without any sort of chance of him, messing it up. But again, we put it a little bit inside. a little bit underthrown, and we get a pass break as opposed to a touchdown. And that's just the sort of day it was for Michael Penix, which is, unfortunate. All right, next one here, trying to be critical, trying to be fair. Right here, play action. I think Penix really puts the best ball he can out there. And, we're not able to make a tough catch for our quarterback. This isn't really on Penix to me. I think this is the only place he can really go with the football. I think he puts a decent ball out there. I think we just don't catch it. So, again, pretty much whenever you see kind of these concepts here, you're essentially going to have something deep, something in the middle, these flood concepts, and you're going to have something low. I miss colored it, right? I always make the person who catches the ball red. And Mooney's the one who gets targeted here. So, but again, you have something kind of deep, you have something flat, and then you have Mooney coming over the middle here, right there. Oh man, I'm a disaster with the colors on this one. Anyways, point being, the ball's there to be made. He doesn't hit it, and that's just reality in the NFL, right? Mooney's not able to come down here. Is it a great pass? I don't think it's a fantastic catch, or a pass, but I certainly think there's a world where Mooney, falls down and makes this catch and helps out our quarterback. And I don't really know where else he could put it, because you don't really want to put these high because it makes it easier for the defensive player to kind of come and catch it when it's contested like that. But, as it stands, it's an incompletion that I don't really put on Penix, right? It was just, there was nowhere to go with the football. He put a decent ball out there. It wasn't caught. That's the NFL sometimes. So, next play. All right, next in here, we're going to have the would-be pick by Michael Penix. Really should have got punished here, just not verifying the coverage in terms of technique by the corners. This one is in position to drive down on the football. We don't verify it. We just throw it blindly, and really he should have picked us off and taken us to the house. We'll talk about it defensively and what you're looking at as a quarterback. So, pre-snap, what does Penix know? He knows, okay, it's third down. We're midfield. This is 4-down territory if we can get it to fourth and short. So, he's going to know they're presenting pressure and showing these three kind of backside players. Given that they're showing this sort of coverage, he's probably going to guess that they're going to bail some players out. That would be accurate, and that's what the Colts do. So for him, he's probably thinking, all right, I have Drake London one-on-one with this player. If I come up here and just throw this little hitch route, since this guy's playing so off, I'll be able to get it to my playmaker in space. He can make a guy miss. The issue is at the top of his drop when he's looking, and we'll even go a hair back. So right here, this is literally during his drop. He should not be making the decision to throw immediately. This player is playing so flat. And as he gets into his stance, and he's already ripping this, right here, he's in his stance ripping it, you can see the hips. This player is ready to drive. This player, he's playing a little bit more respectfully. So if he had opened to this side and seen Kyle Pitts throwing this, perfectly fine, right? Perfectly fine. There's no world this player drives down and makes a play. This guy, he is already driving down before you've even thrown the football. And that's where you get in trouble. It's a great pass pro up front because it's quick game, right? They don't have time to get pressure. The ball itself is, probably a little bit inside, in my opinion. I think he probably wants to put it more outside shoulder. And honestly, if he puts it more outside shoulder, there's a chance that this defender can't even make a play, right? Like that's possible too, right? But either way, it's a really, really bad play. It should have been punished. It would have been, pretty back-breaking. Luckily here, I think we're able to punt it. And, I don't know if they get a touchdown on the drive. They certainly scored a lot of touchdowns on us. But either way, ball off screen here. But, we just broke it all down. Bad play. You got to verify this coverages, leverages of the defenders. And, before you just throw stuff in quick game, you have to at least make sure it's there. Otherwise, you're going to get picks. And when you get picks in quick game, they're almost always, pick sixes because nobody's in position to make a play. It's not down the field passing, right? It's quick game. That means, the only people the defender has to worry about, really, is the offensive line and the quarterback catching him. So it would have been a pick six. Glad it wasn't. Next play. All right, next in here we get 4 verticals, and you're going to see Michael Penix rifled into Drake London. It's a great read. It's a great throw. Right here, the Colts, to me, are playing cover 2. 4 verticals, it's tight window throws. If you're going to beat it, you can basically beat it with the hole shot, or you can beat it with the seam throw based on the leverage of the defenders. And right here, that's exactly what they do. So 4 verticals, you kind of have this check down option if nobody's there, and then you're going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And obviously, you're going to see Michael Penix rifled into Drake London. And again, usually what will happen is either the vertical flashes quickly or you throw it to your check down. Right here at the top of his drop, he sees that, okay, they're definitely playing some sort of, Tampa 2 type coverage. I think I can throw it into the seam window. And, he certainly makes a fantastic play. He does a really good job throttling down Drake London and protecting him from a big hit. I talked about this on last week's video. I wanted to see him throw to Kyle Pitts on a dig route over the middle, and I thought he could have thrown it if he had throttled him down a little bit, put it low. That's exactly what he does here. This is what you're supposed to do when you're throwing your receivers into rough windows where they kind of know they're going to take a hit. Put it low, but put it away from the near defender. That way they can kind of slide and catch it and protect themselves. It's an awesome throw by Michael Penix. It's a tight window throw. It's a fantastic job. All right, next one here. This is one that's hard for me to ding Michael Penix super heavily on. But it's certainly a play that I think would have been really cool to see him make. And if he had made this throw, we'd all been losing our mind. We'd been like, oh, that's really impressive, the reset, the throw. Or if he had thrown it with someone to hang it off, and be like, oh my God, look at the arm talent. Instead, we kind of get the worst of all the worlds where we don't really make anything happen. And I think it just sucks to watch. Again, I'm not saying, most quarterbacks make this play, but I wish he made it sometimes, if that makes any sense to people. So what are we running here? Mooney coming up here, running this clear out. And then Drake London coming inside and running the sail to attack the vacated space. It's certainly there. Top of his drop right here, plant. You could argue right here, if he wanted to just immediately throw it, there's probably a window. But I understand he sees pressure. He's like, okay, I got to step aside. But he doesn't really step aside. He winds up to try to throw this. Then he has to step aside late. And then he double hitches opposed to just clean resets. And Drake London, I'm sure you could argue Drake London should probably know. In this situation, maybe you carve it down a little bit. But I don't know. That's a little bit too much blame on somebody who was wide open and not getting the ball for me to be comfortable giving. So again, what am I saying? Again, we just saw the wide view. We saw Drake London is wide open from start to finish on that route. There's no one even remotely around him. So Michael Penix right here. Plant. You have two options here. You can either just, kind of plant right there and throw it. You can recognize, okay, this guy's here. Let me step aside, reset, and throw. I think he wants to do here, you'd love to see him take like a decisive step, reset, throw. Instead, he kind of winds up, pump fakes this, gets this, hand on him. At this point, he's in scramble mode. He's like, shit, I can't take a sack. Steps forward. You'd love to see him right here, even. Reset base, throw. Nope, let's take 2 steps, then let's hitch and throw it away. Again, I understand. There's pressure in his face, guys. I see it. I know it. I understand that there's pressure in his face and it disrupts the window of the play. But if you watch enough NFL quarterbacks across the league, you will see not all of them, not even most of them, but some of them on occasion will complete this play. And I just feel like there's been a lack of this play being completed. That just, it just sucks. I mean, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks across the league. I think Michael Penix can still possibly become one. But plays like this, it just, I don't know, it dampens my enthusiasm, if that makes any sense. Because I just feel like right here, you take that decisive step to the left, you reset, you throw it. Oh my God, I could not say enough good things about if he did that. But that's not what he does, and this is kind of the result. So, again, not trying to be too harsh, but it's just a discouraging play is how I'd put it. I don't think it's that bad of a play. It's not a terrible play. It's not a terrible miss. It's just discouraging for me personally. So we'll get to the next one. I don't want to harp on it too much. All right, next thing here, we're going to see Michael Penix just miss Darnell Mooney. There's no other way to put it. It's a wide, clean pocket. He's not throwing with anticipation here. He's looking at the guy he's throwing it to. His decision to throw it's perfectly fine. We just don't put a good enough ball out there. It's going to be hard to get these third advantageables everybody says we need when we're not throwing, good footballs on second down. So Drake London coming up here, running this out route. You're going to have Darnell Mooney coming up here, kind of just pushing off and getting this kind of, hitch route curl. And then backside, we will pair it with this dig route. And you're going to see this kind of linebacker takes it away. They're playing cover 3, so their corners are kind of over here, getting depth. The dig, it's kind of a tight window. It's never really there. So I like him throwing to Mooney here. And top of his drop, looking at it. All right, cover 3. All right, let me throw to Mooney. And this is where I'm going to tell you, I don't understand why he's missing. Because he's looking at Mooney. Mooney's looking at him at this point when he's throwing it. Like, there's no, he just thought Mooney was going to do this. He thought Mooney was going to do that. We're just missing throws. And again, if you want to argue, he's expecting Mooney to run back to the football. Why isn't Mooney running back to the football? Man, it's at his feet. It's at his feet. That's not a catchable football. We can do better than this. I'm not going to defend quarterback play that looks like this. When it looks like this. Again, there's been other great plays. We just had a great play from him like two or three clips ago, right? It's not all bad. It's just very inconsistent. And yes, he's a young quarterback, but also at a certain point, we have to acknowledge that he's played a pretty large sum of football. And missing balls like this is one of those things that doesn't often get fixed. I think prior to this game, it had been a minor issue, This game, it was a major issue. So we'll see how he improves going forward, but that's just non-competitive. You have to hit throws like that. No offense in the NFL is going to be efficient if you're missing throws like that. So, all right, next one here, we make the right read. We have a nice pocket to make a throw, and we just miss it. And again, it's going to just be really hard to be good offensively. And obviously they scored points this game. It's going to be hard to be consistent offensively when this is what it looks like, when we have really great plays mixed with really poor plays. And obviously he's a young quarterback, so, again, maybe he'll improve there. It's certainly possible, but overall for me, this is just a non-competitive miss on a pretty simple, over-the-middle throw. It's just a dig route deep down the field, and it's there to be made. He's thrown it with a little bit of anticipation, which is nice, right? So again, this is nice, right? He has this pressure bearing down on him, but since he's throwing it early, the pressure doesn't matter, and that's great. Like, throwing it this early is awesome. That's really cool. I love that. But we put it way behind the guy. Like, I think it'd be easier to defend if he missed out in front, because at least he kind of stumbles. But again, we're drifting, we're throwing it, not a ton of real pressure. Like, this isn't real pressure. This is late pressure, but it doesn't affect your throw. If this is affecting your throw, we got bigger issues. Overall, this is a pretty good pocket, right? But we just put it way too inside. That's non-competitive, man. That's non-competitive. If it had been, right over here, at least I could say, oh, well, he stumbled coming out of his break, and that's why. But there's no angle here other than he's just missed. And obviously that sucks. And I wish I had better analysis, but obviously that's not a complex play. That's just a miss by the quarterback, and that's unfortunate, and it's a bad play, and it's a game where Penix had a lot of misses like this, which is just unfortunate. I think he had like 7 or 8 misses kind of around this level. Yeah, we'll get to the next one. I don't want to be too negative. It's just a very frustrating game because I can see with the good plays, and you just wish we stacked a little bit more of those down the stretch, and maybe he will. Obviously, we have a home game coming up, so we'll see what happens. Then let's get to the next play. We'll finish the film review and then post thoughts. All right, here we're going to catch the Colts playing quarters, and we're going to be able to take advantage of it over the middle. The linebacker just loses his kind of spot area against Drake London. It's an easy completion. It's a good throw from a clean pocket from Penix, which, again, this is a nice bounce back, right? If we were missing some throws, hey, we got a wide open throw. Let's just complete it over the middle. Concept-wise, there's not a ton, going on here. It's pretty simple. You're going to have your kind of clear out here. That takes it a little bit to the post. Drake London, with this motion inside, going to come over here and sit. And then there's nothing really backside that holds these players. It's just right here. Again, attack that vacated zone. And yeah, good easy play. Good completion. Good job not missing a layup. And, this was a good bounce back. Kind of start to the drive. And again, he has a really nice drive here soon. I can't remember if it's this drive or the next one, but he makes a lot of really impressive throws, right when the Falcons went to kind of tie it up. Take the lead before the Colts tied it up. But yeah, nice play there. We're going to do play action. Bijan's going to release the flat. There's going to be no shot whatsoever for Penix at the top of the drop because we're just going to lose at center extremely hard. Don't let me get started on Newsel and why the Falcons decided just to roll with Newsel as their default center. But anyways, he loses really hard, and we're scrambling left, and Bijan does a really good job getting by this linebacker type and making a catch on the sideline. But Penix especially does a really good job. You know what? I am going to rant a little bit. Man, why the hell did we just go into the season with Newsel as the assumed center starter? I don't understand. He's usually all right in pass pro, so I feel weird pointing out this play, but in the run game, he has been a big contributor to our issues, which I know isn't popular because people like PFF or whatever. I think Newsel has been a big reason for a step back in the run game. I think Falcons fans highly underrated Drew Dalman. And I'm not even saying letting Drew Dalman walk was the wrong decision. What I'm saying was the wrong decision was just rolling with Newsel without any sort of forward thought, which I think really falls on Terry Fontenot, who I am not a particular fan of. But anyways, it's a good rollout play by Penix. It's a good completion. Yeah, it's an awesome job. Him doing something that I don't, naturally attribute to a natural part of his game, and seeing the growth in that aspect gives me hope that maybe he can grow in some other areas too. All right, next here, I'm not really sure why Michael Penix turns down Mooney, but he certainly comes back side and hits, Kyle Pitts on a nice crosser. So I'm not going to sit here and complain too much. I don't really know. I didn't throw it to him. Maybe it's a trust thing. Mooney certainly hasn't done himself any favors in terms of earning his quarterback's trust. So again, I get it. I'll talk why I think we all can kind of sit here and kind of look at the same thing. So he's staring at Mooney very clearly. Mooney doesn't really have anybody around him. He could put it right on his line and probably get a 4 or 5 yard gain. Yeah, I mean that's just why I don't understand why he doesn't throw it. Again, maybe it's a trust thing. Maybe he just doesn't like this angle. Maybe he thinks he's not going to be able to get as much as I think. He might be right. Either way, he comes backside right here. All right, let's look over the middle. I see these two defenders kind of vacating the space. All right, I can attack that area, throw it with anticipation. So again, the ball is leaving his hand. Kyle Pitts isn't even looking at it yet. So that's a great job by him. Kyle Pitts, making the catch. But yeah, I think this is a really nice rep by Penix. I don't know why he turned down Mooney, but either way, he did a really good job getting to his second read. So if you're going to turn something down and you get to your second read and make a good throw, then I'm not going to harp on it too much. So yeah, it's a good play by Penix. All right, next one here, just obviously a bummer play by Mooney. They were kind of running, I wouldn't classify them as clear outs, but clearly, Mooney's the primary read here for Penix. Yeah, I like the throw. Obviously, it's a wide open receiver. I mean, there's nothing too crazy about this throw. I mean, Michael Penix has all day in the pocket. You're going to see them kind of running this deep post route. You're going to see Drake London kind of coming up here, kind of running the stop and then try to get vertical. Not really from start to finish. It's just Mooney on this deep comeback, which is a route he's run really, really well historically here with Kirk Cousins and everybody else last year. All day in the pocket. We have kind of max protect. Coverage-wise, we're pretty covered except for Mooney, so we launch it to him. He's wide open, and we just drop a gimme. So this is one of the ones that doesn't show up on the box score, right? The quarterback doesn't do anything wrong. Not that I think he does anything extraordinary here, but, I mean, he's making the play he has to make, and it's a good throw. And, I mean, Mooney just drops it. So, again, not all on Penix. I think that's pretty clear, right? The offense has some structural issues for me. No, not really as much this game in terms of passing. I think it's just player execution not really working the way we need it to. Yeah, we'll get to the next play. All right, next one here, we get another miss by Penix. I think you could try to argue that this is, them not being on the same page in terms of Mooney coming out of his break. I'm going to disagree just because I think if you were to argue that, I think the ball would be behind Mooney's break. So even if it was, I think it would still be a bad ball. So that's why I'm kind of going to argue against it. So right here, Mooney's coming up, selling with his vertical speed, and then he's going to get outside. What I think you could argue is that, Mooney maybe was supposed to be more along the 40 and not the 43. And if he was along the 40, then it's a better throw and it doesn't look as bad. I'm going to disagree because we'll see the end zone angle. So again, top of his drop. What I do like about this is Penix is throwing with anticipation. So before Mooney's into his break and looking at the football, Penix is throwing it, which is how you have to live on these deep outside, kind of outbreakers and dig routes. You have to play with anticipation. You're just never going to complete enough of them for that to matter. So I love the anticipation. I just think we put it low and not where we want it. And the main reason I argue that is because when we look at the end zone angle, and again, bear with me here for a second. When we look at the end zone angle, if you're going to argue that, so here, it's at his feet, it's pretty in line with him out of his stem, and he broke it more kind of vertical. So if you were going to argue that he was right here and he broke it, would he not be closer to the sideline, when this ball gets there? So, if he's right here and he broke with a little bit more depth, if he broke here, he'd probably be more out in front of it and have to stop and get behind it. So again, I don't know for sure if it's Penix or Mooney's fault. I'm just saying based on what I can tell from the film and the fact that he has been spraying balls this entire game, I'm inclined to say Penix just missed this throw. And I certainly could be wrong. But I think for this one and some of the prior ones, I think he's just missing throws. And that sucks because it's hard to be consistent offensively when you're missing throws. All right, next one here, we're going to miss from Penix to Mooney. This one's a little bit of a weird one to break down for me. So I've honestly gone back and forth on it so much on how much I actually want to, give Penix shit for it. I think it's just a weird play. I think it's a really hard window to fit a ball into. So yes, it's a miss. I think he puts the wrong club onto it. I also think design-wise, it's hard hitting these deep outs from the numbers to the sideline. It's just not a whole lot of field to work with. So, I mean, if you're Mooney up here, you're running the route you're told to run, your quarterback only has kind of this area to squeeze the ball in. It's not a whole lot. Versus if it was, Drake London running it, or even if Mooney's stem was more, all right, break inside, and then break out. You just give yourself more room. You give yourself more room for the quarterback to complete the throw. But that's not what we're doing here. And it just, Penix is throwing it, relatively on time. There's a world where he puts a little bit less, air on this thing, and he just squeezes it right over the corner, and maybe it's a completion. So I still think it's a miss from Penix. I mean, first of all, it's clearly a miss because let's be honest, this thing goes like all the way towards the sideline. Like there is no world in which this is even competitive. He's already at the sideline and the ball is like 7, 8, 9 feet above him. Like this has no chance ever being caught. So that is an egregious miss. Like look, he's catching it right there. He's beyond the white lines. So this is clearly a miss on Penix. I just think design-wise, it's a hard throw to make, and it's especially when you have a little bit of pressure in your face. So clearly a miss, clearly an open-ish throw. I just think the margins on it are so narrow. You can see Penix has some pressure in his face, probably speeds him up a little bit, not able to put exactly the club he wants on it, and he misses it. Again, no chance in hell for that pass to ever be completed. I just think it's a harder throw than it looks on tape sometimes. So it's on the lower end of his misses for me, while still being kind of a bad miss because, it's way out of bounds. It's non-competitive. I just think design-wise, it's a pretty hard throw to make just because you don't have a lot of error room in your timing nor your throw. So, next play. All right, the intentional grounding play, which obviously stinks that he keeps having these plays happen, but I also think it's, just blocking was so terrible that really gave him no shot. Obviously, in hindsight, he should clearly just throw this thing onto, Bijan's feet instead, opposed to taking this. That's not even hindsight. That's just what he should do, especially after last week. I think in this situation, you need to know, my running back's right here. Let me just throw it at his feet, live another down. Instead, he tries to spin out, be a guy he's not really, and then we take this intentional grounding call, which, it, in and of itself, I don't think is actually that bad. It's just the fact that it's happened 3 weeks in a row makes it, kind of hard to sit there and be like, well, it's just a one-off. He should know next time, just chunk it at your running back's feet. You're not really the guy to make somebody miss like this in space. I think it's a bit of an overblown play. I think it's obviously a bad play, but it's not even really among his worst plays. I just think the optics of it are so bad because it's happened 3 weeks in a row. So we'll get to the next one. Obviously not great, but it really is just the blocking was terrible, and he had no shot on this one. He really just needs to know where Bijan is, especially after the past couple of weeks, but is what it is. Bad play, but, I think there are worse ones. So, next one. All right, last one here. You're going to see Michael Penix against the pressure. I'm not really going to blame him here because they send 5 and they get an unblocked person right in our quarterback's face when we have a chip block and a running back releasing through one of the gaps. So, I would also assume if I was the quarterback, I might have like a hair more time to maybe throw this football to Sills. So I'm not going to sit here and totally criticize him for not making it. And I'll show at the end zone angle so we can talk about pass pro. So, they're just going to run a pretty basic stunt here, and we're going to have absolutely no answer for it. And I think for me, it's just a communication thing with the O-line. Right here, they too need to be communicating right away, like push, whatever your call is. And he also has to have his eyes ready to see this player come across. He also, and this is where the real issue is, typically speaking, if you want to be able to pick up stunts effectively, the depth of your lineman kind of matters. Which right here, they're on roughly the same level. But we just recognize it a hair too late. Because I think if Newsel already knows it's coming, there's probably a world he's able to actually pick this guy up and pass it off to Lindstrom. But right here, he notices it a hair late. It's doomed. I'm not coming after Newsel in particular here because it's been an issue for the entire interior offensive line. So really, it's on the coaching staff at this point because if you can't figure it out, you're not going to succeed. Like, this is just reality. So that's just kind of reality. What I will say is, again, this is just me being nitpicky. At the top of your drop right here, it's 3rd and long. You kind of know you have one safety deep. You should know it's man coverage as you're looking down the field. You could probably just try to, like, off the top of your drop, just slam this ball to Sills and hope it works out. That said, it's hard to be super critical about it because, again, he had an unblocked defender in his face instantly. But I do think right here, you see him, you're right at the top of your drop. you could, again, he's supposed to have this lightning quick release. I mean, you could try it. But again, that's me being extremely nitpicky because, I mean, guys, he's right in his face. So there's fair criticisms, and then there's just me being like, well, at the top level of quarterback play, I mean, maybe a couple guys complete this where they're just like, all right, I don't care. I'm at the top of my drop. We're throwing this. I'm getting it off one time, and I'm completing a big play. But for Penix, this is not a criticism. This is just me kind of observing the play and thinking about the what-ifs. For the most part, I think Pass Pro failed him here. There's nothing he really could have done realistically. So that's the end of the film review. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that, we were not able to take advantage of some of his good play in the first half and build on that in the second half. I think there were just one too many misses. I really think after he threw that dropped interception, things just went in the gutter, which might be a confidence thing for him, which is, I can be more willing to live with that play, the confidence stuff, if he can be more consistently on. He is coming back to a home stretch. Hopefully he plays well at home and we can reevaluate. I'm not out on him. I know this video is probably a little bit more critical than some people will be. That's fine. I know I'm more critical of Penix than some others. I'm not out on him. I just think we're getting more and more film that suggests he has a lot to improve on if he's going to be a high-end starter. And that's kind of where I'm at. He'll get the end of the season no matter what. I think benching him would be extremely stupid. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot of options to move on from him next year, so we'll probably get most of next year too. So I think there's still a world where he's developed over the offseason and become, a much more consistent quarterback, both down the stretch of this season and in next season, probably with the new head coach, offensive coordinator, and general manager. But yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots game was extremely encouraging for me. Anybody who watched that film review should kind of recognize that. I thought it was a pretty overall good game from him. This one started really good, turned really bad, and we'll see what happens against Carolina this week, and hopefully we're able to come back here next week and be like, oh man, Penix is back, right? Penix is back. We can keep moving forward with a smile on our face because our guy just threw for 350 yards, 3 tutties. Whatever happens, happens. So we'll see. See y'all next week.